Welcome to Pathway. We're so glad you're with us today. If you're new here, we'd love to get to know you. We invite you to fill out a digital Connect card on the PCC at Home app or pccfw.tv, or text the word Connect to Pathway text number. To all of you who have continued to give support financially during this time, we want to say thank you. We're so grateful, and we want you to know that from online worship to Pathway groups to community outreach, your generosity has made ministry possible. If you'd like to give, there are several ways you can do that. There are give buttons on our website at pccfw.tv and on the PCC at Home mobile app. You can also text the word give to our text number, or you can mail a check to the PCC office. For all the latest COVID-related updates, be sure to visit our website. Just click the red banner at the top of the page to view new announcements and find quick links for Kid City Online, content for students, adults, and more. You can also access all of this through the COVID link on the PCC at Home app. As always, our services will continue to air at pccfw.tv, so if your health is vulnerable, we hope you'll continue to be part of our online community. Thanks again for choosing to show up here.
Well, hey, everybody. It is good to be with you this morning. My name is Brad. I'm one of the pastors around here. I'm so thankful for the opportunity to take us into God's Word. I want to welcome everybody in the venue. It's good to share with you all as well. We just came out of a month together as a church in a series called Join God, and now we're in June, and the series title has shifted. We're talking about some good news, but I want everybody to know that there's a common theme here. We're on a journey as a church to rediscover a God who is at work in our world, a God who's on the move right in our midst, and more than that, a God who wants us to be a part of the work that he's doing all around us, a God who believes in us, a God who looks at each one of us and says, you can do this, you can join in with me, and you can help share some good news with the world. And I just want to say, we are so passionate about the idea that we can become a church that is full of people who have the desire and the ability to help the world know Jesus. And we just believe God is calling us, and this is me too, to move beyond a faith that only goes as far as what God does for me, and to grow into a faith that includes even more so what God can do through me, and the way that God can move right through all that he has placed within me and within my heart and in my faith in him. Now, I'm going to say something, but I'm not trying to demean anybody's intelligence here, okay? So just give me some grace. I just want to admit and acknowledge that I think for most of us, if we're going to actually get to a place where we're going to help the world know Jesus, then we need a simple way to do this. Like I think everybody does. I know that I do. Like if only the most elite Christians can help another person come to know Christ, there's not any hope for me. I'm out of the equation here. But if we could have a simple way that we could help others around us discover who Jesus is, then I think the world could be changed. And so we keep putting this word in front of our church, in front of us on the weekend, and it's the word bless, B-L-E-S-S. And as I put that up there, I found myself wondering, I'm curious how many people here could fill in the blanks of the word bless. So if you've been around Pathway for the last, few weeks, you ought to be able to pass the test here. Didn't you want to come to church today and have a test? I just hope I get a test today at church. We're not quite going to do that, but I was thinking maybe we could just refresh a little bit. And what if we just had a little crowd participation? And I want to invite the venue to join in as well, right upstairs. Or if you're online, just shout some things at your screen. And who knows? Who will hear you? God will hear you. But let's work together. Let's see if we can figure out, kind of remember together what each of these letters stands for, because they stand for a simple way that we can help the world know Jesus. What's the B? begin with prayer. Somebody just said pray. They just skipped right over the B and they just said pray. It's just who needs the B? Begin with prayer. Now, there was this pastor a few weeks ago who taught on the L and the E. I don't know how well he did, but it was me. Let's see if we remember. What's the L stand for? Listen, you got it. What about the E? Eat together. What's the first S? We're a little weaker on that one. Shout it out. Come on. Serve. And what's the last S? Share God's story. Yep, let's put them up there. We want to begin with prayer. And you know what? We just want to be friends with the world around us. We want to listen and hear people's stories and hear what they're into. And we just want to spend quality time with people that God has placed us around and be intentional with that. And we want to look for ways that we can just help. How can I help you? How can I serve you? And then we want to share God with them. And we want to dive in. And as a church, we've got something coming up that we're so pumped about. It's happening July 3rd, Saturday, July 3rd. We're going to have just a big celebration that evening at our church. The weekend of July 3rd and 4th, all of our normal services will be online. So 5 o'clock on Saturday, 9 and 11 on Sunday, those are online only. But Saturday night, July 3rd, we're throwing like a party here at our church. We're going to have games, we're going to have food, it's going to end in fireworks. And I think at about 7 o'clock, we're going to have a worship service right here. I think it's going to be outside. We just want to invite everybody to come to this, but we also want you to know that one of the reasons we're doing this is we wanted an opportunity to model bless to our neighbors right around our church. And so we are inviting every home, every house that's in that Shearwater subdivision right around Pathway. We're going to invite them on July 3rd to just come and be a part of us, to eat with us, to hang with us, to have some fun with us, to watch some fireworks with us, and if they would like to be a part of a worship service that's live and right here at our church. And we hope that you'll come July 3rd if you're around, but we also hope that when you hear about this celebration, that you'll be reminded that you can do the same thing. For people that you work with, people that you live around, you can do bless too. And we together as a church can come around our community in a simple way to help the world know Jesus. Now, like I said, in the month of June, we're in a series called Some Good News. We're doing a couple things. We want to invite you, first of all, to read through the book of Acts. It's one of the early New Testament books. It's the story of the earliest Christians right after Jesus was crucified and resurrected and ascended into heaven. And if you saw your God time today, if you got your notes, on the back of the notes is a God time. It'll lead you right through a plan to start getting through the book of Acts through the month of June. But we're also going to pick some specific stories in the book of Acts that we're going to preach on throughout this month. And we're just going to discover together, what is the good news? We're going to spend 5 weeks looking at the last S in bless. And we're going to just work together to learn more about what it is that we can share with people and how we see this as an example in the book of Acts for us today. And I think it's maybe something that you might not get when you hear us spending so much time on one of the letters. I mean, we covered 2 of the letters in one weekend, but we're going to spend 5 weeks on the last S in the word bless. Are you serious? You're only probably coming to 2 or 3 of those. You're out. No, I'm just kidding. You should come to all of them. It's going to be really good. And here's the reason. And I'm going to throw this up, and this is what we're really going to dig into today. I believe there's a problem that we need to get honest about. And it's that for many Christians, there are few things more challenging than sharing the good news about Jesus. You know, you look at things in life, and there are a lot of things that some people are good at and other people are not good at. I don't know if you can see this with me. Let me ask you this. Is there anybody here, and I just want you to be honest, you're not bragging on yourself up in the venue too, just be kind of maybe raise your hand or just tell your neighbor, yeah, that's me. Anybody here, you're good at math. Like numbers and you, they go together. You just be honest, you're good at math. I'm good at math. It's not to my credit, that's just how I was born. There are others of you in this room, there's almost nothing in the world you'd rather not do than math. Like math is like raise your hand, that's like the last thing you ever want to do is a math problem, right? There's some things that some are good at, some are not good at. I think music is one of those things. Like I play guitar a little bit, but I'm not good at it, and I was never a natural. Sports, some maybe are more natural with it than others. Fixing things is another one of those areas where there's like some people, it's like they don't even know how to explain it. Like something's broken, Maybe it's a car problem or something in their home, and they just know how to fix it. Like they grab tools and they just fix it. And then there are other people where you give them a hammer and everybody runs for cover. It's like, get out of the way, don't even get close to this person. They have no idea what they're doing. They need to spend a lot of money to bring someone in. You know, there are those things. Some people are good at it, some people are not. I think there are also things in life where almost everybody has a hard time. Things that are difficult for just about everybody. When I was thinking about this this week, for some reason, I don't know why, it's kind of weird, but taxes came to my mind, doing your taxes. Like, I kind of think almost everybody just has a hard time with that. And maybe you're here and you're the exception, but I would guess that most of us, when it comes to tax season, we either have a software program that makes it really simple and it's easy to use, or we just take our stuff to a professional and we say, please help me with this. I had a time years ago where I messed up my taxes really bad. I tried to use TurboTax. I'm not saying it's bad. If you use it, go for it. But I messed something up. I don't know what I did. I couldn't figure it out, so I sent it in. And I thought, man, I think my refund is like bigger than it's supposed to be. I don't know what that means. I think I messed something up, but I just sent it in. And then they sent me a letter. The IRS sent me a letter back. And it had a check in it, and it just said, you actually made a mistake. We owe you more money than you thought. And my wife and I looked at that and we said, this cannot be right. Something is really wrong here. So I had the choice. I can either take the money and run, or I can hire a professional and figure out what I did wrong. And being the good pastor that I am, I took the money and I ran. Deposited the check in my bank account and I went on with my life. I thought, the government said they owed me this money, so I'll take it. My wife was speaking some truth and conviction into my life over the next couple months, and we ended up hiring a professional and said, hey, we just want to make sure this is right. And like 5 minutes into the meeting, she just like bowed her head, this professional lady. She's just like, this is so wrong. This is so bad. Did you know this? If the government makes a mistake and they tell you they owe you money, and then they find out that that was wrong, they actually treat you like all that time you had their money. Did you know this? And you don't just have to pay back the money, you have to pay back interest on the money that you had, even though they told you. Even though they made the mistake. And I talked to the tax lady, I said, is that really how this works? She goes, yep, that's exactly how that works. And I thought, wow, man, it's hard. It's hard for everybody. I hope you can agree with me when I say this. But sharing Christ with our words is hard for just about every Christian. It really is. It's like the unspoken truth among Christians. It's hard. Like, it is really hard. Very few people who follow Jesus share their faith. And it's not because, I don't think it's because they don't want to. I think it's because it is so difficult. We take our taxes to the tax expert, and we take our non-Christian friends to the Christian expert. You got somebody who wants to know Jesus, they're interested in him. Oh, you should go to church. They'll help you there. That's the best we've got. And I wonder if it would just be good for us to just be honest for a moment and just admit this is a challenge. What I want to do is I want to take us into Acts chapter 8. We're going to study a couple stories. One's at the end of Acts 8 and the other's at the beginning of Acts 9. We're going to look at a Christian leader named Philip who ministers to a man from Ethiopia in Acts 8. And then we're going to look at the conversion of a man named Saul. Saul's actually one of the most famous people among Christians because we would know him better as the Apostle Paul, who wrote a lot of the New Testament. But here in Acts 9, he's called Saul. And we're going to look at what happened and how God moved in these situations. They're conversion stories. They're stories of people who came to faith in Jesus, but I also believe they highlight the challenge of sharing our faith. I'm going to bite off a pretty big chunk this morning. It's about 16 verses, so hang with me. Let's read it together. This is Acts chapter 8, starting at verse 26. Now an angel of the Lord said to Philip, go south to the road, the desert road that goes down from Jerusalem to Gaza. So he started out, and on his way he met an Ethiopian eunuch, an important official in charge of all the treasury of the Kandake, which means Queen of the Ethiopians. This man had gone to Jerusalem to worship, and on his way home, he was sitting in his chariot reading the book of Isaiah the prophet. The Spirit told Philip, go to that chariot and stay near it. Then Philip ran up to the chariot and heard the man reading Isaiah the prophet. Do you understand what you are reading? Philip asked. How can I, he said, unless someone explains it to me? So he invited Philip to come up and sit with him. This is the passage of scripture the eunuch was reading. This is actually out of Isaiah chapter 53. He was led like a sheep to the slaughter, and as a lamb before its shearer is silent, so he did not open his mouth. In his humiliation, he was deprived of justice. Who can speak of his descendants? For his life was taken from the earth. The eunuch asked Philip, "Tell me, please, who is the prophet talking about, himself or someone else?" Then Philip began with that very passage of scripture and told him the good news about Jesus. Interesting encounter. Let's kind of go on. We're going to skip ahead. We're going to look at Acts 9, 1 through 6. Meanwhile, Saul was still breathing out murderous threats against the Lord's disciples. He went to the high priest and asked him for letters to the synagogues in Damascus, so that if he found any there who belonged to the way, whether men or women, he might take them as prisoners to Jerusalem. As he neared Damascus on his journey, suddenly a light from heaven flashed around him. He fell to the ground and heard a voice say to him, "Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me?" "Who are you, Lord?" Saul asked. "I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting," he replied. "Now get up and go into the city, and you will be told what you must do." As you hear these stories, I want to take you back in a little bit. I want you to ask with me an important question. And really, it's the thing that's on my heart for us this weekend. It's for us to just wrestle together a little bit with the question, why is sharing the good news about Jesus so difficult? You hear these stories and it's really easy to see them as success stories and things went really right. But also in these moments, I believe we see the challenges that every Christian faces. We see things like this. First of all, sharing the good news is inconvenient. Isn't it always? I mean, you have Philip, and an angel says to him, "Hey, go south to the road, the desert road that goes down from Jerusalem to Gaza." And what's so interesting about that little verse is that Philip at this time is actually north of Jerusalem, like 50 miles north of Jerusalem in a place called Samaria. And God is doing incredible things through Philip. I want to show you a map of this. Jerusalem's down here. Philip is way up here in Samaria. This kind of outlines his journey. You see, he goes up to Samaria. God starts to move. It was so significant in Samaria that some of the key leaders of the church in Jerusalem had to go up and help with what Philip was doing. And God, while he's doing all these important things, stops him and says, "Hey, I want you to go all the way south into the desert." This isn't like God telling us to take the Puffer Belly Trail to Cookie Cottage and share our faith over there. This is like God telling you to take a walk to Indianapolis. And that's it. That's all he says. And if you think about it, it's really not a part of anybody's plan for any day. None of us, not me. Like, I don't have a part of my calendar that says 9:30 a.m., make sure you share the gospel today. Like, it usually surprises me. It's usually not planned. It's usually in the midst of when I'm doing something else. It's inconvenient. I think what's also interesting in this passage is what God does not say. In fact, he gives Philip no guarantee, none. He just tells him to go south to the desert road. There's no guarantee in this. There's no promise to Philip that things will turn out well. It happens in this story that things go pretty well with this Ethiopian man. There's no promise there. And the same true for us. There's no guarantee we share our faith that anybody will have a good response. I think in the midst of it, we also discover what Philip discovered. The people that we share with almost always are so different than us. They are so different than us. Philip meets an Ethiopian eunuch, this Jewish man who had become a Christ follower, meets a man from Ethiopia, not modern day Ethiopia, it's actually modern day Sudan, but this man was journeying on a pilgrimage to Jerusalem to worship. There's some reason to believe that this Ethiopian and Philip may have shared some similarities. Some scholars, even some early historians, believe that this Ethiopian was a descendant of the Queen of Sheba who visited Solomon in 1 Kings 10. And there's a strong feel that that queen in 1 Kings 10, after that time with Solomon, took back a lot of Jewish culture, a lot of Jewish theology. And so this Ethiopian coming to Jerusalem to worship likely already knew a little bit, maybe had some familiarity, but at the same time, he would have been a double outcast once he arrived in Jerusalem because he was an Ethiopian, and specifically Deuteronomy 23, verse 1, because he was a eunuch. He would not have been allowed to participate in the worshiping community. And we see this moment where God sends one of his people to share with someone so different than him. And I'm betting we all have people in our lives that we look at and we just say, you are just so different than me. I have a neighbor right now who is launching fireworks in the middle of the day right down the street from me. And I'm sitting on my back patio enjoying a nice day, and there are these fireworks going off over my head. And it's not at night, it's like at 3 p.m. And I hear this and I think, that's just like money exploding in the air. Like I hear one go off and I think, there went like $10. That had to have been a $10 one. I hear 3 more go off an hour later, like 4 o'clock, and I'm like, oh, there was $30 right there, exploded right in the air. And it's literally in a place where the wind is blowing shrapnel down onto my house and onto my back patio. And it's like, makes me jump every time one goes. And I'm just like, why in the middle of the day? Why spend the money on it? I don't understand. That is so weird. But man, I might be the same age. We may share some other commonalities, but the people around us are just so different than us. That makes it a challenge. It's intimidating. Share of faith. Really is. In this moment, Philip meets an important official in charge of the treasury of the Kandake. This is like sharing with the secretary of the treasury here. If you mess up your taxes on TurboTax, this person is coming after you. You know what I mean? But I think a lot of us, we have maybe a moment where we know someone needs to hear about Jesus. Don't we wonder, can I really do this? Can I really do this? Like, it's intimidating. And the last one is, I believe it threatens the status quo. Whenever we share Jesus, it threatens the way things stand in our relationships, in our community, with our neighbors, with our coworkers. I don't think any of us want to wake up, go into work, and feel an awkward tension with someone we have to see every day because the previous day we tried to share our faith with them. And we think about that. We hear Saul breathing out murderous threats against the Lord's disciples. It's because the gospel threatens the status quo. I see all this. And as I'm digging into these passages, I'm thinking there has got to be something here that makes sharing our faith easier. And as I looked at it, I realized no. There's really not anything in this story that makes any of these challenges go away. As we look at the opportunity to share the gospel, we have got to get real and acknowledge that there are going to be moments where we have to go out of our way to help another person come to know Jesus and hear the message. And we're not going to have any guarantee in these moments. We're going to have to come face to face with the reality that our success does not depend on another person saying yes to Jesus. Our success is defined by us saying yes to Jesus. And we have to venture out in a no guarantee moment to someone who is so different, even into moments where we might feel like, can I really do this? Moments that threaten the status quo of our relationships. And I just want to tell you, I believe the shift that needs to take place is not if it's a challenge, but it's when it's a challenge. This is a when it's a challenge thing for all of us. Maybe some of these 5 connect with you more than others. But I want to tell you a couple things. When it's a challenge, I would invite you to start, and I believe God would encourage us to start by trusting Him, by trusting God to do the work in the midst of this moment. Whenever it is, whenever the opportunity presents itself, our beginning is to trust God and to say, God, you do the work. This is so cool. Look at this. This is Acts chapter 8, 26. It just says, an angel of the Lord said to Philip. Going on, it says something about this Ethiopian man. It says he had gone down to Jerusalem to worship. He was sitting in his chariot reading the book of Isaiah. Right after that, it says the Spirit told Philip. And I don't want us to miss this. God was already at work in Philip, and God was already at work in that Ethiopian man long before Philip got there. I want you to repeat something after me upstairs in the venue. Even those of you that are online, I want you to repeat this after me, all right? You ready? I'll say it, then you say it. I'm not God. I'm not the Holy Spirit. I can't change anyone. I think only half of you said it. I'm going to come after you. No, I won't. Let's try it again. Say it a little louder. Come on, venue. Let's hear you. I'm not God. I'm not the Holy Spirit. I can't change anyone. And that should set you free. It should set you free. Because it is God who does the work in a human heart. And I want you to see, every time we share the good news about Jesus, that is an event between them and the Holy Spirit. It is not really an event between them and us. It is between them and the Holy Spirit. And you are just standing in the gap, allowing God to do his work. And what if, when it's a challenge, we believed that God is already working and it does not depend on me? What if, when we're asking the question, can I really do this, we remember God is on the move and it's not even about me? When it's a challenge, trust God to do the work. And when it's a challenge, I would encourage you, keep it simple. Keep it simple. Philip meets this Ethiopian man, and what does the man ask him? Philip says, do you understand what you're reading? And the man says this is so telling of what we need to focus on. He says, how can I, unless someone explains it to me? I believe we have a world that just needs us to keep the good news simple. I want to give you a couple simple ways that I try to share the good news. I'm going to try to do this with a mic in my hand. We'll see how it goes, okay? I'm also going to try to channel my inner Ron Williams here, so we'll see how that goes. When I have the opportunity to talk to someone about faith, in fact, I had this opportunity just a few days ago. I'm with someone, and I just want to share in a simple way. I'll usually work through 4 things. And I don't always say these 4 words, but sometimes I do. Sometimes I actually say these 4 words. You can write them in your notes. I'll just kind of work through good, guilt, grace, and gratitude. Good, guilt, grace, gratitude. We talked last week, Pastor Dan talked about creation, fall, redemption, restoration. It's not super different than that. Just this is what I use. This is what I go to. This is how I keep it simple. And just last week, I'm with someone, and I just said, I just want you to know that in God's eyes, you're part of his good creation. He loves you. But I think we also can all relate to something that at one point or another, and if you're like me, more often than I'd like to admit, we make the wrong choice. And every one of us stands guilty before God. Every one of us has a moment or two or many where we realize, I hurt someone, I wronged someone, and I wronged my Heavenly Father, and I said, God, no, I'm going to do it my way. All of us have that. And yet the message of Jesus Christ is that God saw us in our sin, and he came to us as a man and died on the cross to provide forgiveness of sin, to take on the punishment that our sin deserves. Actually, in the very same passage that the Ethiopian eunuch was reading, Isaiah 53, it's prophesying about the future Messiah. And it says he was pierced for our transgressions. He was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was on him. And by his wounds, we are healed. And I just tell people that God still loves you. And he sent Jesus to die to provide forgiveness of sin for free. And I want people to know that the best thing we can do with that is to respond by just saying, God, thank you. God, thank you for the work that you've done in my life. God, I receive it and I need it, and I am so thankful that you still love me. And I believe this is so important in our culture because there are so many that get this wrong, and they get it wrong right in here. In fact, the majority of the people that I talk to that I think we are around, they take grace and gratitude off the board, and instead what they do is they put the words good enough right here. Ooh, trying to get it up there. Nope. Boom. It breaks my heart, but there are so many people who come to church. There are some of you in this room right now, and this is your gospel, and it's a false gospel. You know that you've made the wrong choice, and all of our thoughts around our religion are about maybe I can make it up. Am I not good enough? If I'm just a good person? Like, as long as I'm not like a serial murderer, I'm probably okay, right? But we have to ask the question, are we ever good enough? Can I do enough good things to take away what I've done wrong? To stand before God and say, God, I've earned it. I've earned heaven? Never. And I want people to know that the message of Jesus Christ is that you don't have to be good enough. But instead, if you will just let him do the work, if you will just receive his undeserved love, and if you will just respond by saying thank you to him, you will find a life in Jesus Christ that you've always dreamed of. And we'll discover together that the reason we do the right things is not to be good enough. Like, why are we at church this morning? Did you come to church hoping that you could get like a sprinkle of God's blessing on your life? No. We're here because God has already loved us. And we just want to say, God, you deserve to be worshiped. God, you deserve to be listened to because of what you've done. Why is it that we're good to people? Is it so by being good to people we can hopefully get God to be good to us? No, God already loves you. We're good to people because we know he loves them too. And we can say, God, thank you for loving me. And I can say that by loving those that you love, God. Why do we stop sinning? When we talk about things like, hey, I want to get sin out of my life. Is it so that someday I can stand before God and say, look, God, I sinned a lot less in my 30s or 40s or whatever? No. We say no to sin because in light of God's incredible love for me in my sin, how could I go on hurting that relationship? I say no to sin because I'm saying, God, thank you. I go from good to guilt, and then I go to grace, and then I go to gratitude. And I just tell people, I think this is a simple way that they can understand the message of Jesus. I want to give you one more simple way, quick. I told the tech team, hey, I want to draw something, and they gave me an iPad, so we're going to try this out, all right? Another thing that I'll do sometimes with individuals, and actually if you're taking notes, there's space to draw. You can draw with me. Go ahead and get your pen out, draw this, try drawing this. I do what's called the bridge illustration. A lot of times with people, I can be in a restaurant, I can draw this on a napkin, but what I'll do is I'm with them and I'm trying to help them understand the message of Christ and the good news of Jesus. I'll just draw, this is going to be great, you'll love this. I'll just draw like a stick figure, and then I usually just write the word God because I don't give God a stick figure. He's spiritual God. And I'll just tell people, this is how it was meant to be. Us and God together. But the story of all of us is that at one point or another, we make a choice and we choose to go away from God and go against what he has given us that is right and good. And we call that sin, and that sin separates us. It creates a gap between us and our Heavenly Father who loves us, a gap we cannot cross. And the message of Jesus is that he came to the earth, God in the flesh, and he gave his very life on the cross. And in his death, he bridges the gap between us and God, and he covers over my sin. And if you will just believe in him, if you'll call out to him and say, God, would you forgive me? You can be reunited with your Heavenly Father. That is the good news of Jesus Christ. And it's simple. And if you're more of an artist or you're with someone who's more visual, you can draw it. You can just share it in 4 simple words or in a couple simple ways. But I believe people just need us to keep it simple. And lastly, I believe people need us to make it personal. One of the things I love about the story of Saul coming to know Christ, and this may sound counterintuitive, but there's no mention of the cross in this moment in Acts 9, is there? There's no mention of grace. There's no mention of an invitation to receive and to call out in faith. It says in Acts chapter 9, Saul neared Damascus on his journey. Suddenly a light from heaven flashed around him. He fell to the ground. He heard a voice say to him, "Saul, Saul, why do you persecute me?" "Who are you, Lord?" Saul asked. "I am Jesus, whom you are persecuting," he replied. Saul just met Jesus. Saul just had a moment in his life where the living God showed up and the living God moved. And you know what? I believe the world around us needs to hear a story of a God who's alive. They need to hear a story of a God who's real. They need to hear your story. They need to hear how God showed up in your life. And the moment you make it personal and you tell them, here's what God has done for me, I believe is a moment where God begins to work and move in the heart of someone around us. And I just believe it's not if, it's when sharing is a challenge. We can trust God to do the work. We can keep it simple. We can make it personal. And the people around us can hear the good news about Jesus. Hey, as we close, I want to share a story with you. I have been getting to know a lady in our congregation named Kristen, and I've just been so amazed at how she has let God stretch her and grow her to overcome the challenges of sharing the good news. Let's check out Kristen's story.
My name is Kristen Ginder, and I'm married to Dave Ginder, who is a twin. He's a teacher and coach at Carroll High School. I have 3 kids. I'm a nurse. I work at Parkview, been a nurse for about 30 years. I was raised at a Christian home. I accepted Jesus when I was young, at a young age, and then we continued to go through church all through our lives. We were people that went Sunday, Wednesday. I went to a Christian college. I went to Anderson University and rededicated my life to Christ my senior year in college. Even though I was raised to share the good news and to share Jesus with others, it's always the thought of failure to share it, like the fear of sharing it, the rejection, wondering what they'll think of you, or if you know how to answer their questions, if you'll cover everything okay. I have a girl in my small group who I felt like was searching, and I thought maybe she would be the perfect opportunity for me to share Christ with her. I was nervous about that too, even though I'm an adult. And then I thought, oh my gosh, like, am I prepared to do this? And so I thought, what am I gonna do to be prepared? Like, what if somebody asks me, like, or what if I think that I need to present Christ? Then I would need to know, like, so I don't miss anything, so I don't leave anything out. So I have a cheat sheet to kind of walk me through that so I wouldn't forget anything or what I wanted to say. I have that in my Bible, and then I have it saved on my phone as well. On my cheat sheet, it says, just reminds me how to be saved. It takes me through the verses in the Bible about everybody's sinned and how eternal life is a free gift from God. And then the verse about how Jesus paid his death, the penalty for our sins, how we can confess to Jesus our sins, and we can ask God to save us and accept us into our lives. And so they're just the verses that it takes you through. I was excited when the student said, yes, she was ready to take that step. I did take her through each verse. We read them together. We prayed together, and she asked Jesus to come into her heart and to save her. And I still walk through some stuff with her too, and it's been an awesome opportunity. So I'd like to think that, having the opportunity again, that I would jump on it too. But, you never know if it's going to go the same or whatever. But if you feel that prompting from the Holy Spirit to share, I feel like it's something you need to do because there's a reason for it. And like I said, you might be the only opportunity for that person to hear. Part of being fearful, I think, is feeling like you're equipped or you're competent to present that to somebody, I feel like. So there's a verse in the Bible that I've got written down. It says in the 2 Corinthians that such confidence as this is ours through Christ before God. Not that we are competent in ourselves to claim anything for ourselves, but our competence comes from God. He has made us competent as ministers of a new covenant, not of the letter, but of the Spirit. For the letter kills, but the Spirit gives life. It's not relying on ourselves, but God to take us through that, because I don't have the answers, but feeling like He's there for me to equip me to be able to do that. I guess I would say, in my life that even though I accepted Christ when I was young and rededicated my life to Christ, I still mess up. I still fall short. I still make mistakes. Every day as a mom, every day as a wife, every day, as a worker, just in my job. I'm always going to fall short. But if God can use me because I'm a mess up, then He can use you too.
Oh, man, so good, so good. Let's thank Kristen just for sharing her story with us. So here we are. We're about ready to go. And I want to ask, are you ready? Are you ready to go from this moment, to share the good news? And you know the answer. No, Brad, I'm not ready. And I really thought, man, is there anything that I can say, Lord? Is there anything I can say could make any of us truly ready? I don't think so. I don't know that we're ever ready. Are you ever ready to become a parent? No. But I tell you what, as we go, I want you to think about one more thing. Have you ever considered the challenge that God faced in sharing Christ? Maybe you never thought about it that way. The challenge that our Heavenly Father faced in sharing Jesus with the world. I mean, think on it. Was there ever something that was more inconvenient than for the God of the universe to step off His throne and to become poor, to come as a man? Was there ever an act of love, of so much love, with such small guarantee that anyone would ever respond to it? Was there ever a being so different that wanted to draw in so close? Do we forget that Jesus was fully human, that He trembled in prayer the night before He was crucified, that His sweat became like drops of blood, that He called out to His Father, "Take this cup from me," that He gave Himself over to the ultimate threat against His very life? And I believe your Heavenly Father sees you, and He says, I know it's a challenge. I know it is. But you are my witness. You are the light of the world, and you can do it. I believe in you, all of you, every single one of you. I believe you can trust me to do the work. You can keep it simple. You can make it personal. And there are people around you who need to hear some good news about Jesus Christ, and you can do it. You can. Let me pray for you. Heavenly Father, we ask that you'd continue to speak to us about the confidence that we have in you, about the need that we see all around us. And God, when the moment surprises us, when we have to go out of our way, God, when we realize there's no promises here, God, when we're with someone that's so different than us, God, when we feel scared, God, when we see there are some things that could go sideways, oh God, would you help us to go in courage and in the confidence that your Holy Spirit has got us and has got them, that you are already on the move, that you are working in the world. And God, I pray that our church would grow to become men and women who don't just experience the work you do for us, but give ourselves to the work you want to do through us. And God, would you bring change to our homes? Would you bring change to our workplaces, to our cul-de-sacs and communities? God, would you bring change to our world through the good news of Jesus Christ? Send us, Lord, in your power. We pray it in Jesus' name. Amen. Amen. Well, upstairs in the venue, right down here, you guys are out of here. We love you. If you're new, see us at guest services. If you're looking to take a next step in your faith, see us at the Next Steps desk. God bless you. We'll see you soon.
Thank you again for worshiping with us today. If you'd like someone to pray with you, there are members of our church online team or our staff who would love to do that. Simply click on the live prayer button at pccfw.tv or click the conversation bubble on the PCC at Home app. We encourage you to continue your worship through giving. Just click the Give button on the web or the app, or text the word GIVE. Finally, be sure to check the web or the app for the latest updates and at-home resources. We also share many updates through Facebook, Instagram, and our weekly e-news, so be sure to follow or subscribe. Have a great week, and we'll see you soon.